My name is Wanda Rochelle, and I do have my video off so that you guys can all see your beautiful faces, because you certainly don't need to see mine. So welcome to everybody that came. I really appreciate you coming and hearing all this great information. We do have a couple of programs at Save Streets that we're trying to implement right now and that are up and running. And for one is a litter cleanup program, where if your neighborhood or group or community is in need, you can request assistance from Save Streets. And we would be able to provide buckets, garbage bags, a litter grabber, some gloves, and a vest. There might be a few other things that I'm missing. So we would ask that you, the form, I believe, and Julia can correct me if I'm wrong, is up on our website, so that you can click on the form, and you just have to agree to abide by the social distancing and the COVID-19 regulations that the CDC and the governor's office have put out. The other program is around gardening. So we started this thing about Victory Gardens. We'd love to know, who can be out there creating gardens to grow vegetables and plants, because we know that there's a lot of community members in need right now. We can also help supply you with some various items like soil, Tagro, maybe some seeds, Turbox if needed. The other option is to check your surrounding area for community gardens. And if there are spots near you, because you don't have the spot in your neighborhood, if as a group or as a neighbors, if you want to go to a community garden, we will purchase a spot for you so that you can plant and do all the good that you want to do there. So there's a lot more information on our website, and I believe it's safest.org. Please go on there and take a look at our Waste Wizards and Victory Garden program. Julia, did I miss anything? Sorry, I'm going to have to ask you.
Nope, that sounds good. Yeah, it's all about community action while social distancing. And I put the link in the chat there, safest.org/stay committed. So that's where you can get the form where you can get free supplies for your community gardening efforts, or for your picking up trash in your neighborhood.
And also, if you need more detail, just email me. I'm happy to forward. So do not hesitate. Just let us know.
So we also have a request of you when you do this. We would love to see what you're doing with the supplies. So if you could take a selfie with your project or whatever you're out there doing and send it to us, we would be forever grateful. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mary, and she can introduce herself and her wonderfulness of Pierce County and explain what she does, and then she will go ahead and go into her presentation. So take it over, Mary. You're muted.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Hello, I'm Mary Coleman. I'm an environmental educator with Pierce County Planning and Public Works. I've been with the county for 11 years now, and I love my job. It's pretty amazing. There's almost four of us educators, and we go all over the county outside of the city of Tacoma because it's a different program, and we go wherever we're asked for help or assistance. We don't market our program too much because we fill up just by word of mouth requests. So we mostly go to elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and we do evening and weekend programs for adults and families. We do all kinds of stuff. Mostly falls under recycling and waste reduction, gardening and composting, and then a little bit of water conservation and pollution, surface water issues. So we do a little bit of everything. So I was asked today to come talk to you guys about recycling. So I have a PowerPoint, and this is the first time I've ever taught through Teams, so bear with me. And I'm also working from out of state right now, so hopefully my connection holds up, and I'm going to lose seeing you all when I start to share my screen. So let me share. Oh, can you make me able to share my screen, Wanda? There it goes. Okay. Awesome. So hopefully you all see, it looks like my business card on the screen, but that's me, and there's my email. And I can throw all these things in the chat later. I can't throw them in the chat while I'm sharing my screen, but you're welcome to email me, and that's just our program link, our environmental education program link. So I just want to give you a little rundown about how the program works and maybe a little bit of a virtual tour, if you will, because a lot of these places, nobody gets to see them and they have no idea where things go. So first of all, here's our county. It's huge. It's diverse. It includes a giant national park, a giant military base, a big city. We've got shoreline on the Puget Sound. So we cross the Narrows bridges into Gig Harbor and the island communities. And we go all the way up to like Wilkeson and Carbonado and around to the other side. So everything here in the teal is all in the same program. That's on the Pierce County program. Tacoma has its own program. It's funded by the people within the city of Tacoma, city limits, and then JBLM is on its own program as well. This is a little bit older numbers. I think our population here in Pierce County is now up to almost 900,000. It's a lot. We are growing really fast, just to give you an idea of who we're talking about. So if you have Murray's, LRI, or LeMay, they're all under the Waste Connections companies picking up your garbage, or if you live in University Place, they pick it up. And this system is all the same that we're going to go over right now. On this map, the white circles are the transfer stations. So that's where your garbage goes after they drive through your neck of the woods and pick it all up and the truck gets full. They take it to a transfer station, dump it into a giant container that the semi truck will drive all the way out to our landfill, which is the purple square here. The yellow dots are material recovery facilities, or we would call them recycling centers. So that's where all your recycling goes to get sorted. So that's why Tacoma has its own recycling program and their own facility down in the port. Then they have a transfer station and they transfer their garbage. So all of our garbage here in Pierce County does end up out in Graham at the 304th Street landfill. So we don't ship our garbage anywhere else. It stays right here, which is a pretty unique thing. A lot of other places immediately put it on rails and ship it somewhere else. We keep ours all right here for now. So luckily, all of our garbage cans look the same in Pierce County, so there's no confusion about that. If you have a green garbage can, that's what it is. And here's a screenshot from Google Maps just to show you what our landfill looks like. And you can Google this on your own and zoom in and out. It's pretty fascinating, I think. You can look up 304th Street landfill or 304th and Meridian and zoom out. So this is Meridian Street right here, big road. And this whole area is about 500 acres. It's humongous. And that is where our garbage goes. There's a wetland right there. And this opened in the year 2000. So before that, it was up the street on Meridian just before 176. And that's what we used like when I was a kid, where you could actually go walk out there with your truckload and dump it into the dump. And yeah, we don't do that anymore. We don't let people drive into the landfill. You can drop stuff off at the transfer station, and then those big semi trucks drive it out to here. So that one filled up, and then we opened this one here, our current one, in the year 2000. So currently, we think it is about half full, which is not great. It takes a lot of garbage. Here's the zoomed in shot, just a little bit zoomed in here. So the trucks turn in from Meridian and come in, and they drive in. They drive over a scale house somewhere in here. They get weighed, and then this looks like the most current dump site for the garbage. They move it around so that it's nice and level and it builds on top of each other. And so it's really stable and packed in as well as they can get it. Here's a shot from, I'd say this is probably 2003-ish. So this one section doesn't have any garbage on it yet. This is what the bottom of the landfill looks like. A landfill is highly engineered. It is not a dump. A dump is what they used to do, is literally just go dump garbage somewhere and then dump it over here. Well, you can imagine there could be some really bad things that could happen from dumping garbage on the ground. So landfill is a highly engineered thing where they consider the environment and everything around it to not be negatively impacted by the garbage. So there's many layers laid down. The topsoil is scraped off because that's got lots of value and life in it. So that gets used somewhere else. And then here is a cross section. This is a display that's inside the landfill to show you all these layers that go down before the garbage goes down. So there's some concrete, some gravel, and this wonderful clay that we know holds water so well. And there's some drainage there as well to capture the leachate from the garbage that gets treated a couple of times. So lots of engineering to protect our soil and our groundwater. Here is some fresh garbage being dumped. It's a nice view of Mount Rainier up there. It gets compacted by being run over so we can fit in as much garbage as possible. And this stuff back here looks like dirt. It's not dirt. This is what they cover the garbage with every day. And if I go back, I can show you, this would be the previous day's garbage. They cover it up to absorb the odors and the gases and the smells. Notice there's not a lot of seagulls or anything picking at the garbage, so they keep it pretty clean. And if you drive by it, you really can't smell it. It's not bad. We do take kids on tours sometimes because they have no idea where their garbage goes. And here's a picture I took when I first started my job. I'd been out there a couple times and I was like, wow, this really is filling up fast. I should take a picture, and then I'll come back in a couple years and take another picture in the same spot. So that's what I did. So on this beautiful day, I stood here by this wall, and you can see the workers back here for scale. So this area has no garbage on it yet. This is the top of those layers that they lay down. And here back here, you can see the strata that's developed from other layers of garbage. And then as they finish a cell, they cover it with plastic to keep the rainwater out, to keep from making more leachate and yucky stuff from all of our rain. So I stood in the same spot 5 years later and noticed the wall. I couldn't stand directly straight ahead because this machine was now in the way. So I turned to the side a little bit. And you can see it had already filled up as high as it was allowed to go in that spot, and they're starting to cover it up for good in that one area. That's a lot of garbage. That's a lot of space to fill with garbage in just 5 years. So we don't want this to fill up. Another engineering feature, I have people ask me all the time, what about the gases? You know, a landfill is a nice first world country thing. A lot of countries don't have landfills yet. They still have dumps. And this is what we call a closed landfill. So not only are we protecting the ground and the soil from the garbage, we are protecting the air by covering it up and capturing the greenhouse gases that come off the garbage as it decomposes. It doesn't always decompose, but the food waste mostly that we put in our garbage and some of the yard waste that makes it in the garbage, as it has access to oxygen, will break down and create a lot of methane gas. And that methane gas is really bad for the atmosphere. So they capture it best they can. They run the equipment on it when they can. If they have too much, they do flare it off, and that's what this flare is right here. So lots of engineering. We don't want it to fill up. And one of the things we can do is by recycling properly and putting the things that we can recycle in the recycle cart. And I know this gets confusing for people because our carts look a little bit different across the county. And these were the original ones. They're kind of a grayish blue color, and they were made out of recycled plastic. And we kicked this off about 20 years ago when we went away from the stacking little bins. UP has one similar. It's a little more blue in color, and then the newer bins now are kind of a dark gray color. But these are all recycle bins in the county system, whereas if you live in the city of Tacoma, those bins are blue. So this is the materials recovery facility, or we call it the recycling facility. So one thing I like to point out with this virtual tour is that a lot of people think when you put a recyclable item in your cart that, oh, I'm recycling. Well, not even close. Those materials have to get sorted out and then somehow make it to a manufacturer that's going to make something out of it. And that is truly recycling it. We just have to capture those materials and get them sorted out and baled with other like materials so that they can actually be used again. So this looks like garbage, but believe it or not, this is all recycling stuff from our carts. Gets dumped on this tipping floor here in this great big warehouse. And this piece of equipment is picking it up and putting it down here on this giant conveyor belt to start the sorting process. This is a huge facility. It's very dusty. It's very loud. It's a little bit dangerous. Some people put things in there they really shouldn't put in there. And they get sorted really, really fast. For example, there's some workers along the line that are picking things out. So you can see all these dust particles here, and they've got masks and really thick gloves and goggles and everything on. Just in this section, they're just picking out plastic bags or film, any kind of stretchy plastic that makes it in there. If people bag their garbage or bag their recyclables or put plastic bags in there, all they're doing is pulling those out, because those really bog down the system. They get stuck on all the equipment. Then they have to shut down the machine and cut everything off. It is not good. So we want to keep plastic, flimsy plastic, out of the system. This, I was going to put a clip in here, but it was going to be too hard. So pretend this conveyor belt is going really, really fast. It's impressive the amount of materials this machine can sort. There's all kinds of technology here to sort things, not just human power. A lot of lasers, poofs of air, special magnets, eddy currents, all kinds of cool stuff. And it's not perfect. It's really good though. So like materials get sorted and put together, and then baled, and then hopefully after all that work, they can find a manufacturer that will buy that from them and make something new out of it. It doesn't always happen, but it happens a lot. And anything that was trash that made it into the recycling there, like the plastic film or dirty takeout containers or something like that, all that stuff, they still have to pull that out and pay to send it to the landfill. So that stuff's just taking a really expensive and long journey to the landfill. So we want to keep the things out of there that shouldn't be in there in the first place. It really messes up the system. So how do we know if we're doing a good job? On the recycling end, we know because the recycling facility is pulling out certain things that shouldn't be in there. Or their bales get rejected from manufacturers because there's too much contamination in it, too many things that shouldn't be in there in the first place. And on the garbage side, we know because we look at it. So this picture is to remind me to tell you that we do a waste sort every year, except this year. Thank you, COVID. But we hire a team of people to help us, and we all go out there. I go out there too, and you can see all these different buckets and tubs. I know the purple ones were for glass, the different types of glass, different colors of glass, different kinds of, I think this was plastic bottles, plastic water bottles, plastic film, plastic bags, you name it. So we've got all these different categories for things. And then our analysis person puts it all together and makes this, we get this beautiful graph. It kind of shows us a breakdown of what people are throwing away. Are we doing a good job? We could do better. We're below the national average for the amount of garbage we make, which is good. But here you can see on the left, we throw away a lot of food and organic matter that maybe we could compost in our homes. We can't put everything in our yard waste bin. I have people ask me that all the time. Can't we put food waste? Well, we've kind of gotten a little more flexible on that. And if it's something you could have grown in your yard, you can absolutely put that in your yard waste. So all kinds of produce clippings and stuff, but just no meat, no dairy, no bones, and no cardboard or anything like that in your yard waste bin. And then there's still a fair amount of pretty recyclable stuff making it into the landfill, taking up really valuable space. And these are specialty items that have drop-off locations or special places where you can recycle things. And I love to look at this chart and go, wow, if we actually composted everything we could, put our yard waste in the yard waste bin, recycled everything we could, dropped everything off we could, boy, we would be down to just this much waste. That would be amazing. So that's my hopes and dreams for everybody. So how do we keep the landfill from filling up? Because this is important because the landfill, if it's about half full, that means we only have 20 years left, right? Okay, well, what do we do in 20 years? And think about where you'll be in 20 years. Well, the state of Washington has made it really hard to build any more landfills here on the western slopes. There's just too many people and the land is too valuable. So we either have to make a landfill in Eastern Washington or put it on a rail and ship it to somewhere else. And it feels really irresponsible to have our garbage just sent somewhere else and, let someone else deal with it. But not only that, it's going to cost us more to put it on a rail and send it somewhere else, especially over a mountain pass. So we want to reduce, reuse, recycle. Reducing is the best one. That's why it's always first. It's really hard to do, but just try not to get things that are going to end up in the garbage in the first place, or refuse those things. And then reuse the things that we already have, give them new purpose, give them to somebody else to use, that kind of thing. And then recycling is what I'm here to talk to you about today. So we're going to go over recycling. If you've seen this magnet before, that's our program. And I will put a link in the chat in a little bit about where you can go to get one of those. It's a paper magnet, so it's recyclable. You just tear the magnet off the back as we change it, because the recycling system is always changing and people aren't used to that, and it didn't change for a long time. But as technology changes and we get new products and new packaging, the recycling system has to change with it, because they just can't take everything if they can't sort these things back out. So what does it mean to be recyclable, really? It's not all about tree hugging and saving the earth, sadly. It's a business, and if we can't have if we don't have enough a market value, if there's no one to buy the material, there's no reason to collect it. Yeah, it'd be great to keep it out of the landfill, but if we pull it out of the landfill and nobody wants it, then what do we do with it? So we have to have that market value, and that changes over time, depending on new products that come out on the market, or new campaigns to get people to buy recycled content stuff. So the more we are aware to look at a package and go, oh, this is actually made from stuff that came from that recycle cart. Oh, okay, I should buy that one over something that was made from maybe a fresh tree out in our forest. So look for that recycled content on packaging. And then if the item is recyclable in your local program, just because we can take something here doesn't mean somebody else can take it over here. When I showed you the map with the two different materials facilities, recovery centers, recycle centers, the one in Tacoma and the one out in Graham, they're different facilities. They can sort out different things. They can sort out mostly the same stuff, but not quite everything is the same. So depending on where you live, you're kind of at the mercy of what that machine can sort out. So if you move around, look at your local recycling program, because it might not be the same as where you just moved from. So here is our recycling program. On the left, our recycling. So we've got plastic, paper, and metal items that we can recycle. Bottles, jugs, tubs, and buckets. So we don't want any prescription bottles, but like vitamin bottles are okay. These are all really hefty plastics. If you give them a good squeeze, they're going to kind of keep their shape. Notice there's no flimsy plastic in here. There's no plastic bags. There's no strawberry cartons. Think about the journey these things have to take. So they're in your cart, and if they're at the bottom of the cart, maybe they're getting a little squished. And then they all get dumped into the recycle truck when it comes around every week, and that drives around your neighborhood, and they're compacting it a little bit as they're driving around. And then it gets taken out to that facility recovery center, and it gets dumped on the floor. And if it's on the bottom of that huge pile, it's going to get squished a little bit. So if things are really squished, that machine can't tell what they are. So one of the things that we have on here, I'm using my mouse, there it is. Oops, sorry. Is it should be empty, clean, and dry with no lids. Give it a quick rinse. We don't want any film. We don't want any of the lids. Okay, got the lids. So plastic bags, films, or wraps. No bagged recyclables. So really simple, rigid plastics, as we call them. And I have an example. I'll show you in a minute what kind of stuff. I have a stash of recyclables here with me. And then paper is pretty obvious. Paper is the most easily recyclable material. Mixed paper, boxes, bags, it's all great. Metal cans, aluminum cans, metal cans. And the important thing is please don't squish them before they get a chance to get sorted out. So if you're squishing your cans, that machine's probably going to accidentally sort it with something plastic. Or if you put a plastic lid in your recycle cart, the machine's probably going to sort it with the paper because it's small and flat. So we have all these little particular rules on here for a reason. And then garbage, we had just a recycling reminder for a long time and people were getting really confused. We put the garbage side back on. So a lot of these are just these single-use items. Any kind of crinkly plastics, give it a good squeeze. If it's loud and crinkly, don't put it in the recycle bin. It's going to get squished, it's going to get flattened, it's going to end up in the paper. And nobody making paper wants a bunch of plastic when they try to shred it up and make some pulp out of it. And there's a bunch of plastic cartons in there. And then this is one we just recently took off, the milk cartons. I know, such a bummer, right? A lot of people thought it was because the plastic liner on the inside or the plastic at the top of the carton. It's actually not. People were rinsing them out pretty well. The problem was they weren't letting them dry. So the carton would start to mildew inside. And then when that gets sorted with the other paper and baled together, then it spreads like a rotten apple and starting to make the whole bale rot. And you just can't make paper out of rotting pulp. Not good. And plastic packaging like chip bags are just small and flat. They're going to get sorted with the paper. Styrofoam is really hard to recycle, especially things that had food on them. And these things, people are like, oh, it's really good. It's aluminum and I have some good stuff. The aluminum foil in the trays, the aluminum is just so thin that it tends to just burn up when they try to melt it down and make new aluminum out of it. So that's why we don't want that. And then any kind of single-use items, they're just small, they're flat, they're usually dirty or have food on them, or too small. These coffee pods are not recyclable. Lids, all that stuff. It's just too small. It gets into other stuff like the shredded paper. We took shredded paper off the list recently, mainly because we used to have just the shreds, long strips of paper, and they've gotten fancier over the years. Now they have the cross cut and the micro cut, and they don't stay together, and you can't just pull that little wad of paper off to get it recycled anymore, and it actually gets into some of the bottles and the cans, and so it's contaminating that stuff, plus it's not actually getting recycled, so we took it off. And then we have drop-off for glass plastic bags you can take to grocery stores, usually, and then household hazards you can take at the hazard drop-offs. Reiterate some of these changes as of last year, the shredded paper. So instead of putting it in your recycle bin, you can mix it in with, if you do home composting, it's considered brown. You can put it in your worm bins if you do that. Use it for fire starters if you do that. But don't put it in your recycling bin anymore. We have lots of shred events now, and we're working on revamping those during COVID here. So you can bring your whole documents and watch them get shredded in front of you. And all that goes straight to people that want that shredded paper, and they make paper out of it right away, so it doesn't have to go through that sorting process.
Cheryl,
refrigerator curtains came off.
Cheryl, you've got about 5 more minutes.
Oh, 5 more minutes, thanks.
Yeah.
And plant pots, we took those off. They just were making a mess, and there's too many different kinds of plastic. They were always dirty. So our resources, and I'll throw this up in the chat in a second. We have a few web pages, not too many, it's not too confusing. There's some great stuff on there, and the recycling resource page, the recycle menu page, sorry, I love this one. You can look up lots of things alphabetically that you can think of and find a home for it or a reuse place for it or something like that. One of them being plastic bags. So you can look up bags or plastic, they're both there, and it'll list these places that have specific drop-offs. And those plastic bag drop-offs at grocery stores are mostly run by the Trex recycling programs. So if you know what Trex decking is, that plastic wood-like looking deck material, they love those plastic drop-off bins because then it's just pure plastic and it's clean and it isn't dirty with stuff, and they use it to make that decking material. And lots of people are upset we don't pick up glass anymore. So lots of glass drop-off locations. Glass is just really, really heavy, and it's so cheap to make new that a lot of places don't want the pieces that fall through the system in the materials recovery facility, because it gets broken, it gets other stuff mixed in with it. It's not clean. It's not great. So those glass drop-off sites, we've been doing that for 20 years, and all that glass goes straight up to Seattle. There's a company up there that makes beer and wine bottles out of it, and they don't care about the color anymore. They have a fancy machine that can sort out all the pieces by color there. So yay. And then if you want to know more about our solid waste plan, we have a big plan for all this stuff and our waste going into the future, and I'll throw that link up in a second as well. And now I can see you all again. I feel like I talked your ear off.
There is one question for you.
Yeah, so go for it.
Introduce the next person. This just says shredded paper can be brought to the transfer station still, correct? And do you put it in a paper bag or dump it in the bin?
I don't think anybody is taking shredded paper. Tacoma, are you taking it in your paper drop-off bins? Our transfer stations, I don't think have, the Pierce County transfer stations, I don't think separate materials anymore. They were having issues bailing their own stuff right on site. So they went to whatever you can put in the cart, you can drop off there, and then they'll just send it to the facility and it'll get sorted there. They'll take a couple of specialty items like old barbecues and some other stuff. But I think the city of Tacoma is the only one that you can still drop things off specific by material. Maybe UP. UP Refuse might still have their sorting facility out there. I'm not positive.
Okay, and then is there a separate fee for document shredding?
No, the shred events are free. I know you can pay to shred at like Office Depot and places like that, but our shred events are free. And
would it be taken to the transfer station, or when there's an event somewhere, then you would have it done then?
When there's an event somewhere, we bring out a special shredding truck, and yeah, we just wait in a short line. There's usually quite a few people that like to take advantage of that. You don't have to wait and watch your stuff get shredded. You can see it all gets dumped in this big bin, and it is just getting shredded as it gets fed. It's pretty cool.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want people to confuse, because Mary with the Pierce County and wait for people in Tacoma, wait for Preston to do it. So I don't want to see when you see the cotton, I say, oh no, that in Tacoma is okay, but not in Pierce County. Just want to clarify for that. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, sure thing. Things are a little bit different in the city, which I get the pleasure of introducing. Joshua is going to give the presentation, right? Joshua Christy with the city of Tacoma. Take it away, Josh.
Yeah. I also be made a presenter, so I can share my screen if that's cool.
And just for those that aren't, this is Preston too. Just for those that aren't watching the chat box, I dropped in there. We still do accept shredded paper at the recycle center. We prefer that you drop it off in a paper bag just to reduce kind of spreading and going everywhere. But it's because it goes straight to the mill, so it doesn't go through the same processing that Mary was describing.
I'm going to throw in a bunch of links right now. So that's all my links together. Here we go.
Oh,
go for it, Josh.
I am a presenter now. I wasn't before. So. Let's see. All right, here we go. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right. Yeah, so I'm Josh Christy. I'm with the City of Tacoma, Recycle Reset Project Specialist is my job title. Thanks, Mary, for all that context and all that good information. Yeah, the city and the county they're a little different. As Mary said, the recycling goes to different places, but it's still recycling. So there are a lot of similarities, and I think you'll see that. As Mary was saying, yeah, reduce and reuse first, right? Like those are the best options generally for the environment. And there are a lot of I don't think it's ever been easier to just buy something and throw it away, but reduction and reuse are generally the best choice for the environment. And there are some cool options for reduction and reuse. There's the Fix It Fair, public library, the Buy Nothing groups on Facebook. There's even, Tacoma has that bring your own bag ordinance. And there's lots of other creative ways to reduce and reuse. And obviously all the ones mentioned here have their own reality now in the age of COVID. Oh yeah, and I did want to mention also was the Tacoma Tool Library, which is a good way to share tools so you don't have to buy a new one and throw out an old one. Yeah, so I will say though, it's generally reduction and reuse is better, because sometimes there are circumstances where you do need to buy something. Like in my circumstance, we have a water heater that's super inefficient. So it's actually better for the environment for us to buy a new water heater and replace it. So it's not, that's why I say generally reduction and reuse are the best option. But recycling also has an important role. Like if you look at natural systems and the way ecology works, there's materials are recycled through an ecosystem. And so hopefully we can make our human system the same way, where there is a recycling aspect. Yeah, and so in the broader context of recycling, there was a huge change to the system. You probably all have, maybe you've heard that there have been changes to recycling in Tacoma, and that really comes from January 2018 when China increased their contamination restrictions. Originally, they were allowing around 5% contamination, and now they're allowing more like 0.5, basically stopping the import of recyclables, which really was a big shock to the system. I mean, China bought a lot of recyclables. So in a kind of classic supply and demand problem, when China stopped buying recyclables, they became a lot less valuable. And that caused a lot of municipalities to really rethink their programs. And we're no different. And the city council initiated a project called Recycle Reset. And in the first phase was to get feedback on the nature of recycling and what the future should look like here in Tacoma. And as part of that phase one of the Recycle Reset project, there was a big survey. And maybe some of you remember it, but maybe many of you took it. But there were a few different options, if you remember. The first option was to stop curbside recycling altogether. And you'd see that in this option, even there'd still be a $1.33 increase per customer per month. And there's the second option was just to stop the curbside glass. And that would result in a $2.40 per customer per month surcharge. And also that went with removing problem items from the list. So, getting a little feedback that someone's shredding paper is probably, yeah, so option 3 is maintaining the current system. And that was $3 per customer per month. And again, removing those problem items. And there was a fourth option, which was $4 per customer per month. And that was having the current system with some education. Yeah, and that actually, I think that was like a 50 cents for the education there. Yeah, and so what happened with this survey, there was a total of 7,438 responses. You can see all the red dots are single families responses from across Tacoma. The blue dots are duplexes. And there was a pretty good spread throughout the different districts in Tacoma. And yeah, so the results, survey says, let's see, yeah, option 4 was the overwhelming favorite. You can see on the far right there, most people liked that one. And it was pretty even across all 5 districts that people liked option 4. And if you remember, that was the option with the kind of keep everything the same and add education. There we go. And in addition to the quantitative results, the quantitative, there are also qualitative results. So people put in comments. And there were a lot of different comments. And Preston went through, and I think Preston read them all and he coded them. And there were 627 about education. So a lot of people confused. And I think this quote in the middle really summarizes it. It says, I know you guys are doing everything you can, but people do not understand what is recyclable and what is not. So confusion about what's recyclable. So what was the decision? Well, the decision was kind of a hybrid of options 2 and 4. If you remember, 2 was changing the curbside glass system. And option 4 was keeping things the same with education. So the council decided to move glass collection to drop-off locations, to not have the curbside system, and to remove the problem items and to also create educational programs. And this resulted in $2.82 per customer per month surcharge. And there's also a program for the Tacoma Public Utility and Environmental Services discount rate and bill credit program, where recipients are exempt from the surcharge. So that's good to see. Right. Oh, and this looks very similar to what Mary showed earlier. Yeah, nice when we can coordinate. And you'll see, and many of you got this in the mail, and these changes went into effect on January 1st of 2020. And you'll notice in the garbage, there's just a few things that I want to point out that was mentioned. Mary mentioned some of them, but if you look in the top left, there's paper plates, napkins, and paper towels. Yep, that goes in the garbage. And right below it is the crinklier plastics, and I brought one to show. Do you hear that? I like the kind of crinklier. And there's also shredded paper as well. But we mentioned that, yeah, you can bring that to the Tacoma or the recycle center as well. And there's drop off in the bottom. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the glass drop off location. So Pierce County has been doing that for, was it a decade, Mary? How long?
2 decades.
2 decades. Yeah. So so that's good. So yeah, Tacoma is also going to this glass drop-off locations. Eventually there'll be 5 throughout Tacoma. But for now, until those are set up, we're going to continue the curbside collection in its current form. You'll see on the picture, there's this is a glass drop-off in, it was Maryland or Virginia, I can't remember, but you can see the really nice art on it. The drop-off locations in Tacoma will also have some nice art by some local artists. But yeah, once those drop-off locations are ready, residential customers will receive notice of at least 2 weeks prior to stopping the curbside system. And there are going to be no changes to the multifamily customers. Let's see. Right. Another thing I want to talk about is the recycle code. So since there is a lot of confusion about what is and is not accepted in a curbside recycling, there is an app to help you out. And it's specific to Tacoma. So you can download this from the App Store, Recycle Coach. And that's this picture of what the screen looks like over here. And yeah, you can just search, put an item in, and it'll tell you if it's, goes in your garbage, goes in your curbside recycling, or if you can take it to the recycle center. And the thing I like about it is it has a push notification for collection. So it'll tell me the day before my collection that I can put out my garbage and recycling or my yard waste, depending on the week, which is very useful. Yeah, so just some quick tips. Yeah, don't put your recycling in plastic bags. Don't bag plastic recycling. I think that is, yeah, I think kind of a big change for people. But yeah, another one is that the kind of chasing arrow symbol doesn't mean something's accepted in the curbside recycling. Maybe you all already know these, but it's something that questions that get asked a lot. So I thought I would just talk about that. The kind of chasing arrows symbol actually has to do with what kind of plastic it is, what kind of plastic resin, and it's more for the industry. And doesn't mean that it's accepted in our curbside recycling. Yeah, and just use the recycle center as another tip. As we mentioned, it's located in 3510 South Mullen Street, and the hours right now are Friday through Monday. So it's kind of more weekends and Friday, Monday, 8 to 5:30, and those changed with COVID. It's really the best way to make sure that whatever you want to recycle gets made into something new, because it is separate. And there's a lot of things that you can get recycled there that you couldn't do in your curbside recycling. And yeah, I also wanted to say things are confusing, and it's not just like our fault. New materials are being made all the time, so much so that it's really hard for individuals to keep up. Amazon has a new thing or someone has a new thing. Like new stuff is just being invented. So, if you're confused about what is and was not accepted in recycling, it's kind of normal. So you have some tool to look it up, and when in doubt, ask, look it up, and make sure though that you're getting education that's relevant to your specific area. Because if you just Google it, it might be for some other recycling system. So we're here. You can ask, ask Recycle Coach. There's some good ways to find out. Let's see. And lastly, I'll say, stay connected. So this is my email, my phone number, and if I have a second, I'll pass it over to Preston. Was there anything you wanted to say?
No, excellent. Josh, thanks for bringing everybody up to speed. I was actually just looking up some resources for some folks in the chat. So I'm happy to answer a couple of those questions whenever you're ready. I don't know if this is appropriate time. Yeah, okay.
Sure. See him, go ahead.
Okay. So I see Debbie is asking about, it looks like Anchorage, Alaska ships its recycling via Matson to the Port of Tacoma. Does one of our entities handle, I almost said Arkansas, I'm originally from Alabama, Alaska recycling, or contract with other municipalities to process recycling other than your own? So I'm not sure exactly where Anchorage recyclables go. They may go to JMK, which is the same facility that we use. I know that they do have Alaska customers as well as Idaho customers as well. And that's a very good question because it kind of peeks into the greater issue of acceptable list and what we're doing in Tacoma or Pierce County, and what's the overall impact for the recycling industry as a whole. So I can tell you there's conversations going on at the state and also federal level about harmonizing basic lists so that we're all kind of on the same page, because I think what you're alluding to is, it kind of is difficult to get a grasp on the contamination issue if you're not in alignment on what you're accepting or not accepting in your program and how you're messaging that. So that's definitely a great question and something that we're looking at as an industry as a whole. I don't know, Mary, do you have anything you want to add to that or anything? Good. Okay. And then I saw another question. Can we talk about what items can go to the recycling center that cannot go in the curbside containers? Yeah, I'll put a link in there in the chat box for a link to the recycling center. And they have information there on what they accept. It's a plethora of items compared to what we accept curbside. And as I describe it, your curbside recycling is really for your bread and butter recycling, the things that like aluminum, cardboard, mixed paper, those kind of things. For all the enthusiastic recyclers out there in the world, we try to refer you to the recycle center. So.
Can I interject one thing?
Sure.
And I get asked a lot of times, well, how come the city of Tacoma, you can drop off styrofoam there? Why don't you take styrofoam? And that's just, there's not enough demand to capture all that supply. What Tacoma collects is enough to meet whoever is buying it, and that's good for them. If we collect it from the entire county, they would have so much they need it. So they often collect things there that we don't collect out in the rest of the county. And that's why.
Yeah, I have a funny little anecdote about that too. Last year, so we have one of the few styrofoam processing machines on site in the area. And so once people find out about that, they're very excited because they feel very bad about putting styrofoam in the landfill, which I greatly appreciate. So last year, our new communications person, she said, oh, this is so cool. Let's take a video of it and, show people what's going on at the recycling center and take a video of the styrofoam processing machine. And she posted on Facebook. So they were inundated with styrofoam for like 2 weeks and processed more styrofoam on site than they have in the history of the operation there. I think they went through, those big commercial contractor bags, like not the ones that you would keep at your house. We're talking huge, massive bags. They went through 60 of those in one day in processing it. So there's unintended consequences there too. So we've been really working with our recycling center supervisor to make sure any kind of messaging we're putting out there to the community is going to be successful, and that's fantastic. But let's make sure that we have the appropriate staffing to handle it too. So it's just a funny story, but I really appreciate how enthusiastic Pierce County residents and Tacoma residents are about recycling. So please keep it up.
Yeah.
Another question here is where can milk cartons, the coated paper, be recycled, and does Tacoma Recycling Center can?
So we don't accept those at the recycle center. The problem with those, from my understanding, is when talking with our processor, is that the amount of material that they would have to collect and keep before they found a market that would make it financially viable for them to sell it to, it just doesn't make economic sense. And a lot of times, because those cartons are closed and they have like a little top on them or something, they're just a prime place for mold and mildew to develop. And so that degrades the overall quality of the product, therefore decreasing the price, furthering the economic disincentive to not recycle it. So really, we encourage people to put them in trash and find an alternative material that carries that same product if they can. Obviously, not every product comes in multiple, containers and styles of containers, but if you can, we would encourage that if you're really wanting to recycle.
Okay, and next question is, so did you say that there is no longer recycle exports?
No.
Go ahead.
From what I understand, the only thing we're exporting right now is paper. China still needs a lot of paper, so a lot of our paper is going in that direction. Our steel has almost always stayed here in the United States. And then our plastics, I believe, are going to BC right now. And then our glass is staying super local, going to Seattle.
Okay. And next question is, or comment, when we had a restaurant, we recycled cooking oil. Has the city looked at recycling cooking oil? Anybody can answer.
So I'm double checking right now. I saw that question. That's a good question. I need to refresh my memory if we accept that at the recycle center or not. We definitely accept motor oil, and I don't think we accept cooking oil, but I'm going to double check that just so I'm not giving. You don't think so either?
I don't think so. I go to the recycle center in Tacoma all the time. It's like it's my church, and I don't believe I've seen cooking oil there. I've seen other oils.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I was looking to see if it was part of our household hazardous waste program, but I don't think it's even part of that either. So I'll confirm and put it in the chat box.
Someone is saying you do. I gave my cooking oil and they took it, but another person is asking, will anyone speak to the Department of Ecology's Recycling Development Center progress with new legislation for plastics and EPR? And would you please say what EPR is?
I can say what EPR is.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, EPR general. I mean, it's kind of a broad term for policies that help the producer of product take responsibility of it after the consumer uses it. So you buy, if you were to buy a soda bottle and imagine it was like a Pepsi one, and Pepsi had some responsibility in making sure that it got recycled. Like that would be EPR. And it can be used for a lot of different things.
Okay. And someone just posted where the cooking oil is accepted.
Yeah, I didn't see it on our list. I did, for those that are interested in recycling stuff like, different kinds, like we take fluorescent light bulbs there, we take antifreeze, batteries, those kind of toxic kind of products. We do have a great household hazardous waste program too, and we're working at the state level. There's a paint stewardship program that's looking to be implemented, and we're going to start accepting there and be a hub for that too. So for any home improvement products where you might have purchased too much paint, we're going to start accepting that, but that's not right now. It's in the future and being developed right now.
Okay, and I see no more questions in the chat. So Darren,
yeah. Oh, sorry. I think the question that I asked kind of more about Department of Ecology's progress on EPR. I don't know if Preston, if you wanted to say anything more to that. Sorry, Wanda.
I'm Roxanne.
Oh,
but it's okay. We always get mixed up.
No, that's a good question, and I don't know, Mary, if you've been involved with that. I've been sitting in on those meetings with the advisory board that was established for the development center, and they had an initial meeting. I want to say it was before coronavirus, so it was back, I want to say, towards winter of last year, something like that, where they were basically trying to formulate ideas on like what are we going to work on relative to the mandate from the legislature, and starting to kind of bucket those ideas. And then from there, they had the last meeting that I was at, they were very interested in the extended producer responsibility, the EPR initiative, and how they can support that and kind of how that plays into recycling overall. So there's been some progress. It's early, they're only meeting on about a quarterly basis. So, and all the folks that are part of the advisory board are also part of, other operations and other jobs. And then ecology, especially with kind of the state level funding cuts. I've heard nothing about the development center getting cut or anything like that. And I don't think it will, just because it's kind of a state mandate. So it's a specific bucket of funds. But they're continuing. The staff there is continuing. They just released a plastics study that kind of looked at overall plastics recycling across the state, and the city of Tacoma commented on a few things. We're always in a unique position as both a kind of municipality, but also we are a hauler too. So people call it short, like a municipal hauler, muni hauler. So we kind of understand both the operational side of things, but also the education outreach and that side of things as well. So we're always in a unique position, which is very helpful in kind of getting a holistic picture of the industry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next portion is Wanda would like to do some kind of drawing to, for the people can be a winner. So,
okay, I'll explain what
I just want to say, even though the COVID-19 is coming and isolated us from each other, but the service from Safe Street, Priscilla is still online too. We are still here. We're here to serve you, and thank you. Just go to Wanda. Just want to let you know that office is closed, but we are still open. Okay.
Very good. Well said, Darren. Well said. Thank you so much. So yeah, we decided that we were going to give out a litter cleanup kit to one wonderful person that is chosen from random. I assure you, I learned how to do random number right, whatever that is, and so I put the numbers into the people that showed up, or at least that registered. So I'm going to go ahead and call off a name, and I think I said this at the beginning, but the litter kit would be a bucket and bags and a grabber and gloves and a vest and things like that. So, okay, drum roll, everybody. Okay, sorry. Debbie Franklin. Is Debbie? Debbie, is she here?
Yay, Debbie!
Woo, Debbie!
Jeremy, yay! Thank you.
Okay. So make sure that Darren has your address, okay? Make sure that we get that
I
to
know
you.
where
So.
she lives.
Oh, I'd be scared then. Yeah. So Darren can make arrangements to have that, to deliver that to your home.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Okay. So but this is only the drawing for tonight only. And the previous, before we started, Julie gonna talk about, if you go to the website, if the group have a project, you log in and apply for that. Is that right? So don't just like, okay, you don't win tonight. Like it does, you have no another option. Yes, we do have another support for the neighborhood watch group, a little cleanup too, but you have to go through the process. Apply, Wanda, Julia, are you still there?
I am, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
you can get free supplies, so you can do your own litter cleanup safely, social distance from other people. But when you're going out on your walks, got your grabber, buckets, safety vests, bags, gloves, everything you need, and you can get it all for free. And I will post the link in just a second.
Yep. And if you need the link, you can email me. I'm happy to forward. I just want to say it again. We are here ready to run. So just let us know, and we're happy to run. Not like a turtle. We run like a rabbit. So we run fast.
Hey, Darren, I saw there was
Yeah.
one question. I just wanted to give clarity for those who may be familiar with the city's litter patrol program with the neighborhood and community services. We are coordinating with those folks there too, because the way that works is you submit the application to do this. It's very brief, it's very straightforward, and then that gets routed to community services so that they know, and then that gets forwarded to solid waste so that we can set you up with a landfill pass so that you're not charged when you bring that stuff to the landfill. So definitely important to follow that process. It's pretty minimal. Happy to help whoever with that process if you have trouble, but just want to make sure that's no cost to you to do this good work out there.
Thank you, Preston, for bringing it up. It's really helpful. I believe like Jenny Reed and other couple neighborhood group have been doing that. So, and Alan just call and talk to you guys. So yes, the process is still there. If you have any question, about what can we do to support you, do not hesitate to contact your mobilizer. In Pierce County, you have Connor, you have Sarah, you have Roxanne. Here in Tacoma, you have me, Darren, Pan, Eric, Connor. Oh no, sorry, not Connor, Eric, and Alberto. So 3 of us here in the city, and three in the county. So you have all of us. Any other update, Wanda?
No, not at this time. Maybe, are there any last minute burning questions for the panel? Or maybe statements by the panel?
And if you guys don't have it, so we have Wanda. Maybe you can introduce Domi. Domi, are you still there? We say she did have a new communication person. That yes,
there she is.
And Preston, Mary, if you have something that you want to share with the group, you can send it to us, and Domi can pass it along so I can share to the group too.
Yep.
Any other comments, Domi? Suggestion? Can you share your contact info? So
yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, I don't know if they know where it is. Yeah, I can put it in the chat.
Yes, because I usually contact Preston and we present a schedule for a neighborhood presentation. Suddenly COVID-19 took over. We not run away, but we still connected. Judy, anything to share from your area? Cheryl, April?
Darren had me hooked up on a book tour before coronavirus happened, so we're happy to jump on that whenever the time is right.
You still owe us.
I still do. Put it in the bank. Put it in the bank.
Yeah. Debbie.
There's another question.
Yeah. Yes.
There's another question here. It says, question on plastic films for drop-off recycling. What about plastic bags with paper labels or plastic tapes?
I can take that one.
Go ahead, Mary.
I got some plastics here to show you. So when we talk about the plastic drop-off, we just say plastic bags, but it's really any kind of stretchy plastic. That includes these pillows. Just cut or pull, squeeze the air out of them. But they all have this stretch. Notice they don't break. Where, or the poofy ones. This is not plastic film. This is styrofoam. It's white. You can't see through it. So that's not considered the same material. It's completely different. Any kind of crinkly plastic, this is compostable. It's not actually compostable in any of the systems. This would be garbage. Plus it tears. It doesn't stretch like these do. So the plastics are a little bit tricky. They just have to be stretchy and clean, and they can all be bagged together and put in those drop boxes, or they're Tacoma.
I think you got muted, Mary.
Mary, you're mute yourself.
Thanks. Weird. Did none of that just come through?
I heard it.
Most of it did.
We heard 3/4 probably.
3/4. Weird. Sorry. So I think a little bit of paper is okay. It burns off when they melt it down. The tape is a different kind of plastics, and it's not stretchy. It breaks. So if you can peel the tape off, great. Even those new Amazon mailing bags that they do that are kind of like this bubble wrap, but they're white. They're also very stretchy. Those can go in the plastic film bins as well. And the label on it is fine. Do you guys have anything else to add to that one?
Nailed it.
Cool. Thanks.
And if Wanda, any last?
Nope. Everything is really great. Thank you so much. I love the information. I should do better about recycling, and so shame on me, but I will start doing it. I challenge everybody to do it also.
Sarah,
so
anything?
Thanks so much.
Sarah, anything, Sarah, to share? Connor, Roxanne?
Mm-hmm.
No, I live rural. I live on the Key Peninsula, so I do everything on this side.
Okay, if not, I just want to say thank you, Preston, Joshua, Mary, so much, and all participants. And again, if you have asked or would like any information, you can email to them directly, or later on you think about something and email it to us. We're happy to forward it to Mary, to Preston, to Joshua, and just let us know at Safe Street and Domi, and just like any information you want to share with the group, please let us know. Any update is really helpful too. So and again, if not, please enjoy 4th of July. Thank you all so much. Yeah.
I was just going to add in too and put it out there for folks too. If you do, right now we're going through a process of working with non-native English speakers to transcreate some of our materials. So getting into more of the nuances about not just translating, but making sure that they're culturally appropriate, make sure that they're visually appealing given the cultural context of the community. So we're getting those new materials. We have translated materials right now, but should you know folks that are not native English speakers, or English maybe a second language, so forth and so on, we will have those materials coming soon within the coming months. We're finalizing the Spanish group and then starting on Russian community, Russian, Ukrainian, Moldovan community next month. So we'll be releasing them throughout this year. So just keep that in mind if you run into community members that may need assistance in that way.
Preston, I have a suggestion. We have a Tacoma Community House, Central Latino, and the Eastside Family Support Center, and that's for here in Tacoma. And then you have a Slavish Church, the one South 15.
Totally. And we're working with a lot of those folks too. So yeah, and then we also just actually received grant funding for Recycling Ambassadors program that we're going to be launching later this year. For those that are really interested in diving into the nitty gritty of this, we'll be offering a course with a certificate at the end of it, and hopefully bringing those folks together to try to have conversations on what they want to do in their community around waste reduction and those kind of initiatives. So we'll be hopefully promoting that through Darren and the Safe Streets community. So feel free to spread far and wide when that's released.
Okay, Lenore and Judy, you have anything? And Roxanne, you have anything to share? Anything? So if not, again, thank you all so much. Safe Street's still here, open. So we're here to serve you. So just let us know. Thank you all. Again, have a happy 4th of July. Thank you, Preston, Mary. Thank you all. Take care. Okay?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Darren.
Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.
Bye.
Hi, Darren.
Yep. Bye, Lenore.
Good job.